Hey, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On today's episode we're checking out a horizontal shoot 'em up that for a long time has been a Mega Drive exclusive, which is getting a physical release soon in the western region. Today we're looking at Advanced Buster Hawk Gley Lancer, developed by NCS Corp and published by Messiah, released to the Mega Drive in 1992. Up until 2019 this was a Japanese exclusive for the Mega Drive and got a release in Korea, published in part by Samsung, but no western release until it was available on the Wii Virtual Console in 2008, and then the Switch, PS4 and 5, and Xbox One and Series from publisher Columbus Circle for modern consoles in 2021. The Switch version is the one we'll be checking out today, but let's hop on the ship and get our mission brief. It's the year 2025 and Earth is under attack by an unknown alien race. You play the role of Lucia Cabrak, the daughter of Admiral Ken Cabrak, who was disappeared after setting out to battle the alien opposition. She then embarks on a journey to save her father by stealing an untested space fighter known as the Gley Lancer, against the crew's wishes. She manages to escape with the craft and blast into the stars on a mission to destroy the alien threat and hopefully recover her father. Gameplay-wise, Gley Lancer is a horizontal shoot-'em-up that spans 11 stages of interstellar carnage as you make your way through each area, shooting down as many enemies as possible for points. When you start the game, you can choose from one of 7 options for your movers, which will feel similar to games like Gradius or even more so Gaiaris. Once you pick your kit, you're off into the fight, though I'll tell you off the rip, the search movers made the combat a lot easier here, especially when you get surrounded by enemy ships, which will happen pretty often. You can also use a secondary option by hitting the C button for alternate fire, as well as pick up various weapon kits for additional firepower like lasers, Vulcan shots, and laser swords, which are pretty sick. You can also adjust your flight speed at will, so if you want to be more nimble, you totally can, and vice versa. While it may not seem overly difficult at first, taking your first hit will remind you this is a one-hit game, as in you get hit once and you're smoked, and then it's back to the beginning of the level or a checkpoint. This includes boss encounters as well, so you'll want to stay airborne and slice through the ops whenever possible. Stages will vary between being somewhat long to really short, with some missions taking only a couple minutes. However, you do need to be ready for anything going through the stages, since just a single hit will destroy your ship. You'll see some familiar boss and enemy designs with smaller craft and big boss battles, and with the right weapons, you can end most encounters pretty quick, except for the final fight, which has a couple phases. Don't get it twisted though, Gley Lancer can feel like an uphill climb if you get caught in a loop of being shot down and underpowered, but you can recover even in those tough spots. You've got multiple continues, and you can change your movers when you continue, so you've got options to rework your strategies if and when you hit a wall. Levels will have some hazards like speed tunnels filled with enemies and caverns you need to navigate through without colliding with any obstacles, but these parts aren't too difficult for the most part, especially if you have the search movers equipped. You'll need to shoot through several barricades at points, so the game does throw a fair amount of stuff at you, but somehow never really gets overwhelming until the final battle. Graphics wise, Gley Lancer looks really cool, especially its cutscenes that remind me a lot of Technosoft and Renovation opening scenes, which are typically eye-popping visually. You get a hefty handful of cutscene interludes too, so there's a good bit of the game where you'll be watching the story unfold. Now with the dialogue being translated from the original, Western audiences can get the full scope of what's happening. Level designs are also pretty solid here. You get a decent variety of environments through the game's 11 stages, going through the reaches of space and planetside for a few stages. You'll see some neat scrolling techniques and a little bit of parallax scrolling in a few areas, so from a visual standpoint, you get a good bit of stuff happening in the background. There's a few unique stage hazards like the face cubes that come onto the screen in formation, which you'll need to memorize as to not be crushed by them, and a few laser barriers that will sway from side to side. The face cubes remind me of the final stage of Midnight Resistance a lot here. Some enemies will lose parts of their crafts while taking damage, and these animations look pretty sick. Seeing mid and main bosses disassemble piece by piece as you take them down looks really good here, and flying over space armadas while dropping off a healthy dose of laser delivery is pretty tight, even if it's anything most haven't seen in horizontal shooters on the console before. There's some sickly enemy sprites here, and your ship has a neon border around it which helps it stick out against the backgrounds as they change between levels, as well as indicate which weapon you have currently equipped. While boss sprites aren't always massive ships, they are pretty well designed and surprisingly compact beyond the battleship encounter. Sound wise, Gley Lancer's soundtrack straight up bangs with some hype jams through the game's 11 stage run. Composer Noriyuki Iwadare crushes it here, and being the same composer to work on scores like Zero Wing, Wings of War, and Steel Empire, it makes sense why the soundtrack rides how it does. The soundtrack was a collaborative effort, and it absolutely smokes. From the opening sequence onward, the music cooks, and is certainly a highlight of Gley Lancer. There's also a good amount of speech synthesis here when bosses are approaching and when picking up sub-weapons. Shot audio has that signature Mega Drive twang, and when hitting enemies almost has the sound of a car engine turning over. The explosions got that gritty sound that reminds me of early Genesis and Mega Drive games. Not really punchy, but not hollow sounding at the same time, so that falls right in the middle. Come to think of it, this reminds me of the sound design for games like Soldice and Aeroflash a bit in regards as far as shot feedback. Gley Lancer is a rad game that has a good bit of challenge while also being accessible to players of any skill level. The one hit downs might throw you a bit, especially if you're used to respawning, but you can still have a good time once you learn the ropes. The final encounter will test your metal, and it's highly encouraged to keep your thrusters at 3/4 to full power on the second phase, where you have to circle around the boss to avoid getting hit and keep those formations tight. The art style and cutscenes and soundtrack are all standouts here, even when some levels get a little bit on the plain side. There's still plenty here to appreciate despite minor flaws, flaws and is a fun one to learn and experience. Gley gets an 8 out of 10 and comes recommended to horizontal shoot 'em up fans and fans of early Genesis and Mega Drive shoot 'em ups. Considering we got similar shooters in the Western market, it's interesting that this one never made it over until somewhat recently. There's actually a reissue of this coming out through Retrobit that's making its way out to people, and I'm looking forward to playing this on Genesis hardware soon. This is also available on Nintendo Switch, PS4 and 5, and Xbox digitally. It's cool to see a long-time Eastern exclusive gets a physical release, and it's got a place amongst some of the best shooters on the console. The original Mega Drive version is quite expensive if you're after an original copy, but you've got plenty of other options, so if it strikes your interest, play this one however you can. And thank you again if you made it this far into the video. If you found this video helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you used it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries come up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.